Part 2. So then we have a confrontation between the Bad Batch and Tarkin, and he mentions again that there's 5 enhanced clones, which I think they're beating us over the head with this, trying to say that the 5th one is Omega, but we'll see. More capable than an army? If that was the case, then they would just enhance all of them, wouldn't they? They would just have all the clones be like the Bad Batch. We're going to Onderon again. So we'll probably see Saw Gerrera again. Why is he always like the only main rebel leader that we ever see? We've seen him in Clone Wars, Rebels, Fallen Order, Rogue One, and now this. Why don't they ever establish any other like big name rebels? They just keep going back to the well of the same ones. Come on, show us something new. I think Tech needs more limitations. He shouldn't be able to just crack everything. He's becoming basically the Deus Ex Machina of the show. Anytime they have any problem to do with technology, he's just always able to fix it. There goes Omega, still refusing to listen. No. Please don't go with them. See, Hunter's being pragmatic, saying it's dangerous, but she just does not listen to reason. This line can kind of be like sort of a meta line too that applies to the audience, because especially the kids who grew up on this show who are now adults, it's sort of meta. It's like Dave Filoni telling the kids that watch this, change takes getting used to, you'll see, just give it time. Like, the show is not the same as Clone Wars, you're going to get used to it. So I guess it kind of works for in-universe and out-of-universe. Look at that really good nighttime lighting on Onderon. That's great. I think Wrecker is a liability. He's going to get somebody killed from his stupidity. He can't go a few days without blowing something up, so I don't know. He feels like he's going to weigh the team down. I get that he's for some kind of comic relief, but it kind of takes away from the fact that this is an elite stormtrooper squad or clone trooper squad. Packs, huh? That's a weird choice of words. Wouldn't you just say squads? Like you have squads of droids. Another example of great lighting. I can't stress enough how great the show looks. So here's where they realize that Tarkin lied to them, sorta, and they realize that their targets are going to be basically political dissidents to the Empire and not separatists like Tarkin claimed. Like, they just assumed they were going after droids again. Crosshair showing more of his villainous side. Although, I mean, I guess villainous, depending on your point of view. He's interested in finishing the mission no matter what, which Hunter is not for that, because they're faced with having to kill kids. Okay, how do they sneak up on them? They're all listening intently and concentrating on this group of people. You don't have one of your guys, like, checking your corners constantly. Like, maybe sneaking up on Crosshair would work because he's looking down a scope, but sneaking up on all of them? Yeah, right. Look at the way the whole scene is bathed in light there. It's really cool. You got like one major light source with the lamp, and it's just going all over their faces, and it looks really good. Honestly, if I went back and watched Clone Wars, I'd probably be like, ugh, this looks bad now. I wonder, Tech, why would Tarkin send you to kill your own forces? Shouldn't you know this by now, what's happening? Yep, just like we expected. It's Saw Gerrera. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Like we didn't know that already. That's purely for the audience. These guys all know who it is. But the show should be trustworthy of their audience to have seen Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that to know who he is. I do like Saw's new look. It's a good bridge between his Clone Wars look and his look in Rebels and Rogue One. Although I do find it weird how he ends up looking like Forrest Whitaker. And how does he get like the Forrest Whitaker eye? Because as far as I know, when they made Rogue One, he was not intended to be Saw Gerrera, and then the writer Gary Whitta was like, hey, this is a character that we've had in Clone Wars and stuff. Let's use him. Let's make him him. Even though he looked nothing like the original Saw in Clone Wars. Like, he was a different race. Like, I think Saw Gerrera was supposed to be kind of Hispanic. More exposition from Tech. Can we just call him Techsposition? No, that was bad. Why didn't you confiscate their weapons before bringing them to Saw? He's your leader. You're just going to bring these guys up to him? Even though you can see that he's got another pistol that he takes off of him? That seems dumb. So they've already walked away, and it took Crosshair this long, and now he's complaining, hey, we should have finished this mission. Like, if he really thought about that, he would have started shooting back there if his chip was truly working like it was supposed to. So the schism is widening between Crosshair and the rest of the crew. Clearly they're setting up Crosshair in a villain role. Suddenly, Crosshair seems to be like completely at the whim of the chip. Like the whole chip thing seems to be a little inconsistent. But I'll get to more of that later. Omega told them not to return to Kamino, so they do the one thing they shouldn't, which is return to Kamino. Crosshair actually making some sense here, saying, why are we taking the word of a child? Why should they not discount Omega's insight? They barely know her. They've known her for what, like a day? Seems kind of weird to already be trusting her. It's weird. I'm flip-flopping between being on Hunter's side and Crosshair's side, but maybe that's the point. I don't know. Okay, so what I expected is actually happening, where I was right about them saying the 5 enhanced clones, that she was one of them because Echo's a reg. And also, how is she enhanced? Like, is it just changing the XY chromosome to the XX chromosome? Like, is that what they consider enhanced? He's right though, it's not obvious at all. Nothing about Omega screamed enhanced. She was just annoying to them. And she's the only female clone of Jango, which I still find kind of strange. Like, if they're trying to make a bunch of identical soldiers all at the same peak physical level as Jango Fett, why would you then change that clone into a female? It's really weird. Maybe they made her only to be the assistant. I don't know. What benefit would it be to just have like a different gender clone? I don't know how that changes anything. I'm sure we'll find out in due time. The toothpick thing is weird. It's like a thing that they always do with. I guess we should have saw him becoming a villain coming because of the toothpick. You know how many movies they have where people have something in their mouth, like a carrot, or a villain eats an apple. They're always playing with something with their mouth. Piece of straw in their mouth. How did you get in the Bad Batch's room? There's no alarms, no guards around. AZ, whatever his name, must not have had his mind wiped then, because it seems like he's helping her. Oh wait, never mind. He recognizes that they shouldn't be in there, but he helps her anyway. So maybe it was just unlocked? I don't know. This joke where he's like, is this what we're looking for? What about this? Is this it? Like, it goes on way too long. Who is this guy? Nostalgia critic? Someone is coming, so leave the room? How does that make sense? Just hide somewhere. Oh, come on. He runs right into him. Ah, it's nice to see some competent troopers for once. I'm looking at you, Mandalorian. It's not fun to see troopers just be complete idiots constantly. They need to bring competency back to the Empire. And so far, I think they do a good job in this show. Wait, why aren't they trying to shoot them down? They're clearly like a liability to the Empire, and they know what their shuttle looks like and they can scan them. You'd think that they would have maybe some anti-aircraft weaponry and they try to shoot them down, because they aren't going to let them stay around for forever, especially if Tarkin realizes that they're not compliant. Oh, another great shot. Yeah, I think it's official that Crosshair is being set up as the villain, but I kind of wanted them to stay as a team for a little while. Like, I know we had that arc in Clone Wars Season 7, but I wanted to see them as a team for a while and not immediately replace one of the main crew with some little girl, and this soon. So then Tarkin takes Crosshair out of the holding cell, and he's being worked on by these droids, which look kind of like the droids that helped Padme give birth in Episode 3. What do you mean the chip is not as active as a standard clone's? What does that even mean? How can it not be as active? Shouldn't it just be like an on-off switch? Either you follow orders or you don't. It feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. As far as I know, the whole like chip thing that controls the clones, that wasn't in the old EU Clone Wars comics. But then when the Clone Wars TV show was on, George Lucas implemented that into the show. So the people that try to say Dave Filoni came up with the whole chip thing and ruined the clones from the EU, well, it turns out it was George that did that. I don't personally have a problem with the whole chip idea, although it is kind of weird that it's not mentioned at all in Revenge of the Sith, but I guess they had to kind of backfill that information in the show. The show does a lot of filling in holes for the prequels, some of the failings in the prequels. So just shooting beams into his head somehow intensifies the order, like it makes his ability to listen to the order stronger. Huh? How? Okay, this whole scene where they escape the cell is really weird. Tech doesn't have any of his, tech, and he remembers that this isn't a prison, it's a facility that was built before the Clone Wars, and it was never meant to hold somebody like Wrecker. But that seems completely insane on the part of the Kaminoans. As soon as the Clone Wars started, they should have changed all the cells into something stronger, because who knows who they would have had to keep a prisoner. I'm sure there's dozens upon probably hundreds of alien races that are super strong, and who knows who could have come snooping. I mean, when Obi-Wan showed up on Kamino in Attack of the Clones, like, what if the Kaminoans locked him up? He could have just escaped with his lightsaber. There was a high likelihood that they could have locked up somebody who had, like, some kind of crazy super strength, or just anyone that's stronger than the Kaminoans. I'm sure the Kaminoans are pretty weak, just by looking at their physiology. So there's gonna be somebody out there that if they are, like, a spy or somebody that comes to check in on the production of clones, they're going to need some place to put him, and in this crappy cell it's not going to be enough. So they should have accounted for that. What? He can know that just by tapping it? He doesn't, like, have blueprints of this place. Oh, he still has his goggles on, though. Can he see through walls with that? They haven't established if he can or not. When he was locked up, why didn't they take his goggles, too, if they took the rest of all their armor? It seems kind of like a big boo-boo on the Empire's part. I know they're not technically the Empire fully yet. I'm just going to call them that because they're effectively the Empire now because the Republic is dead. This place seems very poorly made for being made by a race of aliens who figured out cloning. Like, you know how to clone millions and millions of identical humans, but you can't make a sturdy wall. These clones should have suspected something was up as soon as they started forming a wall around Wrecker, and after the first loud bang that he made. Like, I guess you could do that thing that some games and movies and shows do where they try to time the loud sounds they're making, or like the gunshots with the thunder cracks, but I don't think that's enough. The thunder's pretty quiet outside from in here. But it shouldn't have taken 3 attempts for the clones to start investigating. They just brushed it off like, oh, that was weird, huh? Weird sound. And they didn't. They looked over there, and they should have seen the weird wall that they're forming in front of them, but they just weren't paying attention. Oh, look how convenient that they were locked up with a small child together in the same cell. Look who can fit in that hole. And of course, there's nothing inside the wall blocking her from going through it. Like, there's no wiring, or I was about to say something like 2x4s, but this is Star Wars, so it's not going to be built the same way as the walls that we have. But it's probably got some stuff in there blocking our way. Dude, you guys just saw her in there. Who are you asking about a status report? Weren't you the ones that put her in there? Maybe I spoke too soon about the troopers being competent. You didn't see anyone come in and get her, so where else would she be? Remember how I said Wrecker's going to be a liability? Here's Exhibit A. You should have ordered them to move right when you saw them forming a wall in front of that hole in the wall. Remember what I said about this place being poorly made? So there's no security cameras in here anywhere? That's it then, I guess. Crosshair's full bad guy now. And in the first episode. Will this be one of the arcs of the show? Trying to undo his programming? Really? This kid has probably never fired a blaster, and yet she's nailed Crosshair's gun out of his hands. This better not be another Rey situation. Oh man, Kamino is screwed, right? The Empire's either going to enslave them or just wipe them out because they're no longer useful. Oh no, 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 no. It is Rey all over again. A character with inexplicably crazy power, and she doesn't know how she's that powerful. First, didn't Rey shoot a bunch of stormtroopers the first time she picked up a gun too? It's really irritating. It's just lazy storytelling. Ah, so that's why they made Crosshair a villain. They needed someone that was intimately familiar with the crew so they could hunt them down the whole season. Feels just a tad bit contrived. So I didn't know what this meant, like that number J19, but I heard from somebody that it's the sector of the galaxy that has Seleucami in it. So I'm guessing that means we're going to see Cut again, because that's where we last saw him. And they say they have an old friend. And that's it. There's the credits. Oh, by the way, I love the new theme for the show. It's not the same as the Clone Wars theme, but Kevin Kiner, always killing it with the music. He killed it on Clone Wars and Rebels, and he kills it here. I like how it just says D. Bradley Baker as the Bad Batch, because he just plays the entire main cast. Good for him. He's getting more work, because I'm assuming after Clone Wars ended, he was kind of bummed that he didn't get to play clones anymore, but he gets to be basically everyone in this show. So yeah, that's about it for this premiere. I think it exceeded my expectations. I didn't really have super high expectations for the show. Because, I mean, I like Rebels. Warts and all, I think Rebels is still entertaining. There's things I don't like about it, but overall I enjoy that show. Maybe I'll do a review of that show episode by episode. Maybe, I haven't watched it in a long time. Maybe there's more problems than I remember. And then maybe one day I'll rewatch Clone Wars, because I've only ever watched every episode once. But part of me almost doesn't want to rewatch it, because I'm afraid I'll find things that were wrong about it, and I'll be wrong about certain things, and I don't want to suddenly hate it. But I don't know. I can still like it even if there's problems with it. But so far, I think, for the most part, this episode I thought was well written. I think the first half was better than the second half. But so far, I think this show is going to be a good successor to Clone Wars. It's definitely darker, edgier. Definitely has in mind the fact that kids grew up. The kids that grew up on Clone Wars are now adults, and they want something darker. It's cool to see more like immediately after Revenge of the Sith stuff. And we'll see where they take the characters, but so far they're a little thin, but I think there's definitely room for them to be fleshed out. I hope this Omega character doesn't keep being irritating. I don't know how long she's going to be in the show for. You gotta make us care about these characters, man. You can't just shove it in our face. I really don't want her to be another Rey. And please, for the love of God, don't make her Rey's mom. So yeah, I think the show has a lot of like atmosphere, and the tone is, I like the tone of the show that it's going for. I'm curious to see where it goes from here, because there's no reference for, like, we have no idea what's going to happen in this show, because, I mean, I maybe it'll end right in the timeline right before Rebels starts, or it could go further than that. It could run alongside Rebels. But honestly, this show could go anywhere at this point. So what did you all think of the premiere of Lucasfilm Animation's new series, The Bad Batch? Do you think it's going to live up to the Clone Wars, be as good, be better, be worse? And remember, I'm going off of memory as far as I remember. I don't know if I should make a definitive statement saying Clone Wars is good. I liked it, but I don't know if it's actually good, but I'll rewatch it. So I should rephrase that. Do you think you will enjoy it as much as you enjoyed Clone Wars or Rebels? And also, I have to also include Resistance, which in my last video, I completely forgot. I said that the last animated show was Rebels because I completely forgot Resistance exists. Because from what I heard, it's really bad. And that was another thing. I was slightly concerned about the quality because I had heard that Dave Filoni was involved with Resistance, or that he created it, but I think I also heard that he did not have a ton of input on that show. He got he got the ball rolling on that show and started it, but he was not creatively heading up that show. I think he's been behind the scenes working on this show mostly. So, and we're gonna see finally what Dave Filoni is like without George. Well, I guess we saw that in Rebels too, but is he better or worse without George? Like, it's some. That's the thing about Rebels, is Rebels was 100% Filoni, but this has some leftover elements from George, like the Bad Batch were created by George, like the characters themselves for that arc in Clone Wars. So you still have remnants of George, but all the original stuff, we're going to see if Filoni is better at it without him or not. Because I think some of the bad episodes of Clone Wars were the fault of George and not necessarily Filoni, especially the Jar Jar episodes. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought of the first episode, and I'll try as quick as I can to get an video out for episode 2. If you like this coverage, like and subscribe, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.